What's up, everybody? It is I, TevinElChopo, friends call me Chop, and we are back with another review. This time, we are talking about Netflix's new animated reboot of the show, Good Times. So, Netflix's Good Times is a reboot slash sequel of the family sitcom Good Times that ran from 1974 to 1979. Now, if you grew up in a predominantly Black household, specifically with a television, then more than likely you've seen at least one episode of the original Good Times. And just in case you haven't seen any episodes, all episodes are now streaming on Freevee for absolutely free. So feel free to check those out. So the original Good Times follows the Evans family in Chicago as they live their lives in a predominantly impoverished area, quote unquote, the ghetto. Personally, I've seen the entire show beginning to end at least 2, maybe even 3 times. And from what I understand of the show, pretty much it is just the day in the lives of the Evans family and the different situations that they find themselves in living in the ghetto, whether it is trying to figure out how they pay their bills, how they can get out of tough situations going on in the streets around them. But it all comes back into a lighthearted comedic way, hence it still being a sitcom at the end of the day. Even when the show dives deeper into more darker and more realistic situations, it also manages to blend those more dramatic situations with comedy in a way that was innovative of the time of it coming out. Now fast forward to 2024 and we have this animated reboot created by Netflix, which essentially follows the descendants of the Evans family as they also live in poverty, quote unquote, the ghetto, and go through different situations as well. Now, right off the bat, I must say that there's 10 episodes of this show, and I only was able to really watch the first 4. In all honesty, this show was pretty bad. Now, I saw the trailer for this show, and I didn't have any real good expectations of it being actually good, but I at least had hope that it would try a little bit harder, or at least try to be a little bit more poignant to what the source material was trying to do, and at least try to modernize it in some capacity. And in some places, it does do that, but in most places, it fails completely. Now, Netflix's Good Times follows Reggie Evans, the grandson of James Evans, who was the father of the original Good Times show. So some of the main issues that I have with this show are, for one, the show isn't good. It just isn't. Whack. I don't particularly like any of the storylines from what I've seen. And again, I've only seen the first 4 episodes out of 10. It was the most I could possibly stomach to get through even making this review. But none of the storylines are really pointed to anything that's currently happening in society. Just to give a quick rundown of each episode, the first episode is about the Evans family trying to win a competition in their apartment complex, but they don't have heat in their home because their heater literally ran away, like literally sprouted legs and walked out the door. And now the family has to figure out how they're going to get heat in the house and figure out how they're going to win the competition, things of that nature. The second episode, what happened in the second episode? I don't even remember what happened in the second episode. I think that it doesn't even matter. None of these episodes are connected to each other in any real capacity other than they follow the same set of characters. So yeah, I definitely don't remember the second episode, but the third episode was very memorable because this was the point where I just knew that I couldn't keep watching it. And it was about the daughter character getting her first period. And this was probably one of the grossest episodes of any TV show I've seen in a long time. Maybe because I identify as a heterosexual male, some of these jokes go a little bit over my head, but for the most part, I just found it quite gross. And it's not necessarily from a place of just the topics that they're touching I don't particularly care for, because I remember an episode of King of the Hill, a way better animated TV show by the way, where the main character Hank Hill had to help his neighbor's daughter Connie as she was going through her first period experience. And I just think that that episode was just a way better take on that type of situation. And I also just found it to be a lot more respectful in that episode than anything that happens in the Good Times TV show. There was a few funny things in that episode, specifically with G-Spot being like some type of Candyland type experience. I thought that was kind of clever, but overall it's just very tasteless. And I think that's one thing that I could say about really every episode that I saw, is that they're all pretty tasteless. You know, even episode 4, another episode that I do kind of remember, is when the family pretty much works for Elon Musk. And Elon Musk puts them in a secret experiment where he literally reveals that the Evans family has the struggle gene, a literal gene in their body that allows them to endure struggle. And I'm just so confused as to who made this show and why did they greenlight this show. And it's just very, very tasteless. It's very just not funny. I'm not amused by any joke that ever happens in the entire show. I can't say that I like or care for any of the characters in any capacity either. They're all pretty much played into like one stereotype or the other. You have Reggie, who's more of the stereotypical black dad in the ghetto trying to figure things out, make ends meet. He has his wife who supports him in everything that he does, but also has her own ambitions. Then you have the 3 kids, the oldest child being the dumb kid, because every one of these shows need a dumb kid for some reason. Then you have the middle child, who is more of like the militant activist type character, similar to Michael in the original Good Times TV show. Doesn't really work as well as Michael did, but that's what we have. And then we have the talking baby who sells drugs and is kicked out of the house for selling drugs, which, why?
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Like, why do we have a talking baby in the show? Why do we need that talking baby to also be a drug dealer? And what kind of stigmas are we just leading into? Like, how is it supposed to be funny? I'm kind of missing the funny factor in all of this.
Not funny. Dickens, not.
So like I said, I saw the trailer and I just figured that the show was going to be bad, but I really still had hope for it, that maybe the trailer was just a bad representation of the show itself. But when I literally watched the first episode, and the very first scene of the first episode is Reggie Evans in the shower singing the original theme to Good Times with a roach, and the roach is also singing with him, I just knew it was going to be downhill from there. So yeah, this show is just all around bad. It's just really not good at all. I don't even know why this show was made. It shows that Steph Curry and Seth MacFarlane are 2 of the executive producers of the show, and I'm just so confused as to why either one of them would want to do this. First of all, Seth MacFarlane has already had a failed attempt of making a black animated sitcom about a family in the Cleveland show. And then you have Steph Curry, who I've never known him for doing any type of animated or even just television work in general. And I'm convinced that this show is so bad that it jinxed him into not being able to play in the playoffs this year. Like, it's literally that bad. And I just feel like in terms of just the talent behind the scenes, I just feel like it's kind of a waste of potential. Like, how do you have J.B. Smoove, Yvette Nicole Brown, Jay Farrow, Slink Johnson? All these are amazing actors in so many different roles that they've been in, and you're putting them in this terrible show and giving them this terrible material to work with. It's truly baffling. Even having hip-hop producer legend Ninth Wonder as one of the musical composers on the show is completely underutilizing his talents. And I'm truly just amazed at how bad and tasteless and truly just outdated this manages to be. Like, how is this a current day reboot, but it still managed to be outdated? So like I said, in the first episode, they're trying to get money together to get the heat back on in their house. And first of all, Reggie Evans, the father in the show, is a cab driver, which in 2024, why would he be a cab driver? Like, wouldn't it make more sense for him to be a Uber or Lyft driver if he's going to be driving for a living than for him to just have a regular cab? Like, that makes no sense. And then his big scheme to make money for the heat to come on in the first episode is for him to take his son to a pool hall and hustle pool. Like, it's 2024. When's the last time you've seen a pool hall? I have not seen a pool hall in a very long period of time. Any pool table I've ever seen has been in an arcade, been in somebody's house, but not a whole pool yard. Man, like, come on, what are we doing? Some of the jokes are pretty outdated too. Like, there was a Free Willy joke in the 4th episode that I just truly didn't understand how that made it into the show in 2024 either. And just all around, it's really very tasteless and very racist. I find it to be also racist in just some of the depictions of black people in this show. It's very off-putting that there was black people behind the scenes okaying this. I just don't even understand how they thought that this was a good idea. And another one of my issues is just, I don't understand, who is this show supposed to be for exactly? It does everything in its power to alienate original fans of the original Good Times TV show. It doesn't do anything new that any newer or younger people will want to see or that they haven't seen in a better show. Like, if you want a black animated show that speaks poignantly on black culture, then just watch The Boondocks. If you want to watch a black animated show that is about a family structure, why don't you just watch The Proud Family? If you just want to watch an animated show about a family that's going through dysfunctional situations, why don't you just watch Family Guy? And if you want to watch a black version of Family Guy, why don't you just watch The Cleveland Show? You see what I'm saying? There is no place where this show exists without another show already doing the things that this does, but on a higher level. And to be honest with you, I think the idea of having a reboot to Good Times isn't a terrible idea. I think that honestly, even making a Good Times reboot similar to how they rebooted Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, making it more of a dramatic type show, I think that that also would be a good idea as well. But I just don't understand, what does this show exactly benefit from being attached to the original Good Times show? The only character from the original show that ever gets name dropped is James Evans, the father. And if you don't know, the father died relatively early in the show's run. So I'm not even too sure how Reggie would have any real connection to him in any capacity. Also, I just don't understand, whose kid is Reggie supposed to be? You know what I mean? Like, so if James Evans is his grandfather, then that means either JJ or Michael was his father or Thelma is his mother. And I'm trying to figure out which one of those three would raise Reggie Evans. And the show doesn't care to tell you either, by the way. The show never mentions his actual parents, at least from the episodes that I've seen. Maybe that was a reveal later in the show, but the show is just so bad that I refuse to watch to find out. Also, I don't know if it's just me feeling weird about this, but isn't it kind of messed up that the Evans family is still poor in this reboot? Like, the original Good Times ended with the family moving out of the ghetto and actually living more prosperous lives after their time being spent in the ghetto. So now the show is basically telling me that not even 2 full generations later, the family is back in the ghetto, back impoverished, and as a black person, I find that deeply disheartening. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. Also, I'm not the type to usually complain about animation because I'm not an animator. I don't know how to draw, and I respect people who get into that field 100%. But some of the animation in the show is just plain bad. Specifically, whenever a character has to walk anywhere, it just looks very crazy to me. So yeah, I think the idea of having a reboot to the Good Times TV show would have been a good idea if it was executed significantly differently than what we have today. But just based on what we have, this is awful. This is truly bad. Like, as a black person, I really am disappointed in everyone who's involved in this show. That's how bad it is.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever heard.
Like, even in the moments that it tries to say something about whether it be family values or anything like that, similar to how the Good Times TV show did back in the 70s, it's like 10% of it trying to say something, but the rest of the show is literally buffoonery. Like 90% buffoonery, 10% actual values. And the 10% is so surface level that it just truly doesn't do anything for me. So yeah, this show sucks. It truly sucks. I hope it gets canceled. I hope that talent behind the show can find something else to do that's way better than this. And I just want to act like I didn't even watch it at all. But those are just my thoughts. Again, I only watched the first 4 episodes out of 10. Have you seen the new Good Times TV show on Netflix? Comment below, let me know what you think. If you think that I should watch the other 6 episodes to get a better idea of what the show is really about, let me know in the comments as well. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. My name is TevinElChopo, friends call me Chop, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.